I'm too wavy for that. All these other rappers beefing, I'm too wavy for that. Don't you let me catch you sleeping, I'm too wavy for that. I can't party on a weekend, I'm too wavy for that, man. I'm too
way too wavy. Have y'all seen me lately? I drip so crazy, fuck y'all pay me, bitch. I do this daily.
We don't ask for a lot here at TV Sins. I mean, if there's one thing people say about us, it's that we're super easygoing and considerate. But do you really expect us not to mention how unevenly you're wearing these fucking bracelets right now?
Look, I don't have time for Aaron's ADHD criticisms of a show that he's incapable of genuinely criticizing. I'm not a person of unending patience.
This show makes it seem so easy to make a glass sing like this, but every time I try to do it, I just get wet fingers. Why is rimming so hard?
This sin only exists so that they could make a rimming joke that nobody laughed at. Seriously, did they think this was funny?
Glass souls. Also taking your love of Annie Lennox many literal steps too far.
This is the part of the video where the narrator just says some random shit that's in or is about the episode and counts it as a sin, because they want to make their video longer. In other words, stop wasting my time.
I'll take it over a previously on, but after this intro, I'm seriously going to struggle to concentrate on anything other than Ethan Hawke's feet.
Discount Jeremy sins something he likes cliche.
I mean, he'd love to get out there, but it's a bit hard with one fin, isn't it?
Yes, because the world is rife with fully finned fish jumping free of their perspex prisons and living their best lives for approximately 30 seconds until they drown in oxygen.
Okay, I can already tell that it's going to be one of those videos where Discount Jeremy takes everything too literally and says a bunch of random stuff to pad the sin count, and I'm not in the mood for that right now.
Still selling the old brushes and brooms, right? Right in front of my entrance.
Well, yeah, because you refuse to acknowledge that he also sells a single rake. No wonder the guy never leaves.
Discount Jeremy makes a shitty dad joke cliche.
Also, let's go ahead and address the Dick Van Dyke-shaped elephant in the room that's Oscar's British accent. Sure, it might be a purposeful character thing, but I've heard some people say it's good, and I've heard some people say it's bad.
So he admits that it could be a purposeful character thing, but then sins it anyway? Does anyone else see why that's dumb?
If this is some weird audition to tour guide here, the answer's still no.
Right, because who'd want a tour guide that knows what they're talking about? Tour guides just need to be able to know how to point the way to the gift shop and completely ignore my question about if Impressionists were sellouts, because they only did it for the Monet. Everyone knows this.
Honestly, I'm already annoyed and bored with this video. First, he made another crappy dad joke about Monet, and second, he's suggesting that the museum staff should promote Steven just because he knows what he's talking about, when in reality, the world is a lot more difficult than that.
Not telling the couple whose picture you're taking about the terrible backlighting problem in the shot.
Yet again, Discount Jeremy says something random about the episode in order to get a forced sin, which is very annoying.
Obviously can't have ankle restraints on a bed, can I? That's the definition of a red flag, isn't it?
I mean, it's kind of a gray area, actually.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche.
Presumably, the tape's there to show if Mark left his apartment in his sleep. But if Sleep Steven has the awareness to unbolt the door and walk somewhere, wouldn't it be safe to assume that he also has the awareness to retape the door and replace any displaced sand?
Unsurprisingly, you're completely missing the point. If Steven sleepwalks out of the flat, he will have the awareness to remove the bolts and tape, but the show is suggesting that he won't have the awareness to put anything back after.
Surrender the body to Mark.
My name is not Mark in this scene.
Discount Jeremy has a boner.
Don't just stand there. Run!
Moon Knight Venom's so hard that I'm half expecting Oscar Isaac to find a lobster tank to climb into any second now.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche.
When someone tells me they don't believe we're living in a simulation, I think I should just tell them that both Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke are in the same Marvel TV show. There is not a believable world where this seems possible. So I'm sending whoever wrote this simulation for making it a little too obvious.
What the actual fuck is this sin? It makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I guess he was trying to make a joke about living in a simulation, but it sure as hell wasn't funny, and now I'm just confused.
Let the scales see everything. Perhaps it's something that lies ahead.
As the Dead for Know It Society here, Minority reports this poor woman, I have to ask two questions. First, why would anyone volunteer to do this when the outcome is at best being told you have a good person's face and the other choice is to die on the spot for crimes you may not have even committed yet? And two, how great was that Dead for Know It Society joke?
First things first, the joke sucked. But secondly, and more importantly, the show makes it clear that these people are all followers of a Met, meaning that they are willing to be judged because they believe that it's the righteous thing to do. A channel called TV Sins has somehow never heard of religion before.
Dear God, did he just turn that lady into a raisin? My childhood fear of the Raisin Bran Sun mascot turning people into raisins is flooding back into my mind.
I'm still waiting for him to explain why that's a sin. Oh, he's not going to? Okay.
I'm a meat!
Oh, bollocks.
Funny, yes, but what about the guy who's still standing as Stephen Niels? How do you know it wasn't him?
How is it possible for them to play a clip where Steven has a different reaction to the command than everybody else, and yet they still don't understand how he was caught? The other guy simply knelt slower. He didn't have the same confused and surprised reaction as Steven did.
I'm trying to get back home, back to London. London.
If you were trying to find your way home, don't you think you'd be moving away from the crowd or running down the street to get yourself away from the bad guys?
But Steven didn't know these guys were the bad guys at first, and he was simply curious, which is a totally natural thing to feel.
So strange.
Moon Knight upgrades so hard that I'm half expecting Oscar Isaac to find a kitchen knife and bifurcate someone's face with it.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche.
Being 6 people bloody in front of a child. Do you think Mark looked back at the kid and said, "Want to see something cool," before spiking the skull of a goon onto the cobblestone right in front of her eyes? I mean, if we're destroying innocence, we might as well be thorough.
Why does any of this matter? I mean, do you guys understand what I'm saying when I talk about how they just randomly say something about the episode and call it a sin? This shit is weird, and it's not funny.
Jeez, Marvel, you cut that action scene to death so much that I have no clue what even happened here.
Okay, so he's making a joke in this sin because of the fact that the scene wasn't shown in order to represent Steven's confusion, but I'm still sinning it because I can never be 100% sure that that was the intention or if he actually believes what he just said.
God.
Steven's immediate reaction isn't, "Core blimey, Gov, what happened to me old meat hook?"
A whole bunch of bullshit.
Isn't there some sort of horror movie where there's this log truck that resulted in a bunch of deaths? Can't remember what it was called, but I'm just saying this episode keeps emulating movie after movie, and I'm just wondering what the final destination is for all these ripoffs.
Just because something similar happened in another movie doesn't mean that this show is ripping it off. That's an amateur view that has zero credibility.
Just a note on human psychology. If you were to pass out and wake up driving a vehicle backward, you wouldn't have time to process that consciously before your brain had already instantly been overwhelmed and shut down your motor functions. My point is, this moment would not result in an adjustment period. It would result in a Steven is instantly dead and mangled at the bottom of a ravine period.
But the episode shows us that the road they're on is relatively straight during this stretch, so Steven doesn't actually need to turn the wheel that much to stay on. Add that to the fact that Mark presumably had the wheel turned already to compensate for the slight curve of the road, and this sin is invalid.
Deus Ex Machina.
Nope, you still don't know what the term Deus Ex Machina means.
Steven wakes up here and is eventually relieved to learn it was all a dream. Except it wasn't a dream at all. So where did the injury on Steven's hand go? And why isn't his jaw causing him all sorts of Michael Caine?
The injury on his hand was not an injury on his hand. The blood was actually from the dudes he had just killed. And as for his jaw, the scene where that happened showed us that it got reset. So stop manipulating the show to force dumb sins out of it.
There's no way he spotted that fish was a discount Gus from that distance as it was swimming around the tank. You think you can do these things, but you just can't, Steve-O.
But the episode just showed you that he did. Why are you contradicting the show?
Today, what do you see?
I see two.
2 fins. Yeah, sorry.
Show completely ignores the caudal, pectoral, dorsal, and anal fins. That's right, goldfish have anal fins.
And this sin only exists to make an anal joke, which was just about as funny as getting soap in my eyes.
Unpeck phone control. For the love of efficiency, people, the Verizon gods gave you thumbs for a reason. Use them.
And we're yet again just pointing things out and calling them sins because the sins writers think having a character do something that real people do in real life is a sin simply because they don't do it.
I ate steak by myself, thanks. 2 days ago.
If Steven hasn't been in touch with unnamed love interest, how did he even know where to go for the date? Was best steakhouse in town really enough to go on?
Yes, according to what the episode has shown you. Why are you asking questions with answers that are evident in the episode itself?
Also, does she not have his number? Does he not have a single voicemail or pissed off message from her?
The show doesn't tell us whether he has any voicemails from her or not. We can only speculate about that. However, what we do know is that Steven thought he was going to be late to the date and was rushing to get ready, so we can safely speculate that he simply never saw her voicemails.
I'll put you for well done.
Okay, all they do here is play that clip and then add a bunch of sins with no justification. What the hell?
Scene does not contain a...
Yet another pop culture reference.
What is with this accent?
Right? Ironic that being knighted makes you lose your English accent.
A whole bunch of bullshit.
For some inexplicable reason, Steven chooses the slowly descending metal box with only one exit instead of the stairs as his method of escape.
You're missing the fact that Steven is panicking and therefore not thinking clearly.
Also, I wouldn't take this lift even if my life wasn't in danger. This thing looks like it hasn't been touched by an engineer in decades, has witnessed multiple homicides, and is on the CDC short list of locations likely to start the next pandemic.
So you're sending a crappy apartment complex for having a crappy elevator? Why do you have an issue with shows being realistic?
I'm just watching Otter videos again.
Wait, is this all JB does? Steven can't see his screen, so Otter videos seem like a pretty wild guess unless this is something JB is famous for.
Dude, come on. Obviously, this is something JB has done several times before, which is why Steven was able to guess correctly, but he presumably doesn't do it every single day. Use your brain.
Consider this. Had Ahmed been free, she would have prevented Hitler and the destruction he wrought.
Using your powers to stop Hitler cliché.
That's not a cliche.
By even her own avatar.
Avatars. Blue people. Love that film.
By avatar,
You mean
that I mean.
anime?
Starting with the blue people instead of the greatest show in the history of Nickelodeon.
This is one of those sins where they just say some random bullshit in order to include a funny scene from the show in their video. It's not a valid sin, it's just annoying.
I saw you kill that woman in the Alps.
It's been 3 days and you still haven't reported this to the law? I mean, not that the police in this universe would believe a story of Discount Kevin Bacon turning people into raisins somewhere in Europe, but it's worth a try.
But the show has made it clear that Steven didn't think those events were real until he saw Amit's avatar on the bus. Stop manipulating the show for sins.
Hello? Donna?
Inspecting the weird noises in your museum when you know weird shit is going down, instead of getting the hell out before the moon night at the museum can begin.
This is another example of Steven being naturally curious, but Discount Jeremy would rather act as if he should know some dangerous shit's about to go down and he should therefore escape.
This metaphysical Egyptian demon ghost dog thing is tricked by throwing a bag, so maybe it's just not all that smart, which makes it hard to care.
But why? It's an animal, which is why it's not smart. But why does that make you not care? It's still a dangerous creature. But the show has made it clear that Steven didn't think those events were real. But the show has made it clear that Steven didn't think those events were real until he saw Amit's avatar on the bus. Fuck! But the show has made it clear that Steven didn't think those events were real until he saw Amit's avatar. Fuck! Not avatar, avatar. You fucking dumbass.